I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards. White dudes for Harris. Anybody know it? Every one of those people are voting for me. You would have to go significantly more insane to understand the right. Chastity cages and sissies and bimbos, oh my. And here's where we get into the gender of it all. It's already weird, oh god! I wish I was a woman so I could fuck myself, says Jordan Peterson. Cool, thanks Jordan. I hope you die of mold. Yeah, the demons. Yeah, demons make you gay and trans, obviously. It's the reactionary ideology of like, I don't actually believe in anything, I only have what I'm mad about right now. And that's the only thing that matters to me. You're killing the twinks, you're taking twinks away from us. Because again, people want shit to be so easy. People want shit to be so black and white and easy to understand, but shit just isn't like that in the real world. Stuff is complicated. People are complicated, and we need to understand each other. We need to work really hard to try to understand each other. Like, nature does not nicely fit into categories that are decided by people. Thank you, Nick Fuentes. Very normal thing to say. Score 1 for feminism. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Yeah, I don't want to have sex with a Republican. I don't want to have sex with a conservative. I think they're gross and weird. And we love our asexuals. Asexuals rise up. It's all connected. It's all connected. But I did have an article that I wanted to read through. Or rather an essay. Well, I guess it's an article. I think it's very provocative. It's very aggressive. But like in a good way. I can pause these. I wanted to pull up this article that, oh. Okay. I've disappeared. Liberal Currents put out an article that is titled The Interracial Cuck Porn Theory of Everything, which I found fascinating. So, Liberal Currents put out an article by Cameron Cummins Smith on the 23rd of May. I read through this. I thought it was honestly pretty cutting and pretty cool. And I wanted to share some of the insights that I found within with all of you. So I hope that y'all will enjoy this as much as I did. The interracial cuck porn theory of everything. Everything is gender, but to understand gender, you must understand sex. Which is, you know, fair enough. The modern right is very weird. They go into hysterics when Cracker Barrel decides to change their logo. They're obsessed with declining birth rates to the point of encouraging teenage girls to get pregnant. They're convinced of a Jewish plot to include mixed-race couples in Stranger Things. They can't stop calling their opponents cucks. It's impossible to spend any time analyzing online right-wing politics without tripping over some bizarre psychosexual hang-ups. To the uninformed observer, these may appear to be random quirks of terminally online politics, but I beg to differ. Recently, I've seen some online liberal figures discussing the idea of social dark matter as forces acting upon politics that can only be observed indirectly. I seek to reveal a key source of this dark matter and make it visible to the naked eye. Elon Musk tweet here on May 22nd, Kripke probably got flack from his wife's boyfriend for Homelander being used in based memes and had to write that ending as a groveling apology. Elon Musk is among many on the online right obsessed with The Boys series finale and its send-off for the supervillain Homelander. In physics, there's this idea of a theory of everything, a single, unified model that can describe all physical phenomena in the universe. Real-world dark matter is part of the development of such a theory. When astrophysicists pointed their telescopes to the stars in the 1970s, they saw things that could not be explained. Either Newton and Einstein were wrong, or there was something they had missed. Dark matter was the proposed explanation. What if there is additional matter acting upon the universe that we simply cannot see? What I propose today is perhaps even more important than a physical theory of everything, a theory that can connect and explain the wide array of right-wing psychosexual neuroses. The theory is that right-wing political narratives are significantly influenced by porn, specifically interracial cuck porn, and conversely, the narratives of said porn are significantly influenced by right-wing politics. Pornography is the unseen dark matter molding and shaping how the online right speaks and thinks about politics, on anything from immigration to transgender people to higher education. Call it the interracial cuck porn theory of everything. Notable writers and outlets have acknowledged misogyny as the foundation of the modern right, like this recently published piece by Helen Lewis in The Atlantic. She refers to the ideology as masculinism, presented as a rebellion, a transgressive middle finger to the liberal establishment, expressed in all the words a corporate HR department would order you not to say. The analysis in this piece is great, but it misses many key aspects to right-wing masculinism because it is blind to the pornographic dark matter infused into everything. She touches upon things like birth rates and the fear of refugees as rapists, but fails to really dig into the psychosexual nature of it all. Political positions like advocating for repealing the 19th Amendment or abolishing no-fault divorce are particular manifestations of underlying ideological desires, turning back the clock on feminism and the re-subjugation of women. If you want to get Freudian with it, politics are the ego's practical implementation of the superego's ideology. Most analysis I've seen of the modern masculinist movement focuses on this ego and superego, missing perhaps the most important thing: the id. You hate it because it sounds accurate? Yeah. I feel that. That's why I had to bring it up, because I thought it was really cool. The id is our lizard brain, base impulses that must be mediated by the ego. The id gives us hunger, violence, and what Freud is most known for: sex. Just as the superego's ideas are refined into politics by the ego, the id's instincts are sanitized and rationalized by the ego. A disgust response to unfamiliar food is repackaged as an argument about hygiene or cultural standards. Nostalgia and aversion to change is transformed into debates about protecting the local neighborhood's character. The men of the masculinist movement at the heart of the modern right have higher order ideological beliefs about reasserting explicit patriarchy, but they also have equally influential lower order desires and anxieties. Observing and understanding these lower order desires requires peeking behind what's been filtered through the ego's lens. We cannot directly observe the id. Reading minds is impossible, but the closer we get to impulsive desires, the clearer its influence will be. And what could be closer to impulsive desires than pornography? Everything is gender, but to understand gender, you must understand sex. I made it a little bigger so it's easier to read. Cuckold as a right-wing internet insult of choice has been around since the Gamergate era, first popularized on 4chan message boards. In its early days, it was primarily developed as a weapon of right-wing infighting. The insult, cuckservative, was deployed against Republican politicians that the far right deemed weak and ineffective. It falls neatly in line with the right's typical gender politics. Being a man is exerting authority and control over women, and to subvert that control, especially by giving it up to another man's sexual desires, is to subvert a man's very being. The insult rarely flows the other way. I'd be surprised if anyone reading this even knows the word for a woman whose male partner has sex with other women. It's cuck queen, by the way. Every accusation a confession, absolutely. Here we see the first hints of the id's influence on real-world politics. The reflexive feeling of jealousy and insecurity, or perhaps arousal, generated by the prospect of a partner having an affair, gets incorporated into masculinist politics as the cuckold insult. There are any number of ways to call someone weak, most of them gendered, but specifically, cuckold sticks because it triggers the instinctual anxiety under the surface. The fear of being cucked is so intrinsically linked to the fear of being emasculated that the two become essentially synonymous. This is crucial to understanding the sexuality hidden beneath the surface of masculinist politics. As Laura Field, the author of Furious Minds, put it in Helen Lewis's article, I think a good shorthand for that is they're furious about their own loss of status in society over the last few years, and the elites who make that happen, and I think that the pithiest short version of that is that it's the women. It's the women who took their status. The modern right feels emasculated by the relative status gains of women, and in many, this manifests as a feeling of being cuckolded. While the insult originated in online forums and internet debates, it has not stayed there. The insult libcuck has found purchase far and wide in mainstream right-wing politics. During the 2024 election, there was a Democratic fundraising event named White Dudes for Harris as a tongue-in-cheek spin on the typical Democratic Party's focus on minority identity groups. The right-wing response to this was mostly calling these White Dudes for Harris a bunch of cucks. Tweets that framed liberal white men as pathetic doormats who only supported Kamala Harris to appease their girlfriends, who also happened to have sex with other men, gathered thousands of likes. From Donald Trump Jr., they should give it a more fitting name, like Cucks for Kamala. Remember, that is the son of the sitting president, of course, very professional. I thought we didn't like it when people were not professional when their family was in politics. Like, what was this about? What was all that about Hunter Biden? I don't know. I'm just saying. This one went all the way to the top, as President Trump himself referenced the fundraiser at the annual Al Smith dinner. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know it? Are some of here White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives, and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people are voting for me. A key part of understanding this mass deployment of the cuck insult is the racial element. It is specifically the white part of White Dudes for Harris that triggers the cuck reflex. Why is the cuck insult associated with specifically white men is pulling at a thread on a complex web of overlapping porn genres, esoteric fantasies, fetishes, and political eschatology that cannot possibly be explained in short order. To understand what's going on, it's going to have to get very weird for a bit. Don't say I didn't warn you. It's all connected. The interracial cuck porn theory of everything, IRCP theory, is that essentially every aspect of the modern online's rights politics is reflected and amplified by porn narratives. The Great Replacement and trans panic, inceldom and tariffs, the nuclear family and hatred of academia. These are not separate bullet points on a list of far-right talking points, but interconnected nodes in an ideological web that is largely held together by porn, specifically interracial cuck porn. The online far-right simultaneously creates porn based on their political beliefs and base their political beliefs on porn. It's a horny racist Ouroboros. To help you understand this theory, I'm going to explain the porn genres and fetishes involved, then illustrate how they are connected both to each other and to real-world politics, and finally provide evidence for its popularity and influence throughout the modern right. Kink 101. Once again, not safe for work warning ahead. I'm not going to include any outright X-rated pornography, but it's impossible to explain a lot of this stuff with only euphemism. For the sake of authenticity, every example of content I refer to is taken verbatim from a genuine instance found in the wild. Nothing is hypothetical or hyperbolic. You're just gonna have to trust me because my editor told me I shouldn't include links to hardcore porn in a magazine article. Sorry. Cuckoldry. Cuckoldry as a fetish typically involves one partner getting off to witnessing or having knowledge of their partner having sex with someone else. The arrangement is most often that a male partner is the cuck, while the female partner has sex with another man, the bull, but roles can be reversed or rearranged, gender permitting. It is a moderately popular fetish, with around 7.2% of respondents from ALA's Big Kink survey saying they enjoy it, which is comparable to the 8.6% of people who enjoy feet. The arousal from the kink generally is derived from a sense of humiliation for the cuck, which is both cause and effect for the gender dynamics at play. Women engaging in affairs is perceived not only as a breach of trust, but an attack on a man's masculinity. Many common tropes in cuckold porn are thus related to the cuck's masculinity, or lack thereof. It is a staple of the genre that the bull is manlier than the cuck. Taller, stronger, more handsome, a bigger dick, you get the idea. From this, it should be no surprise that cuck porn is incredibly radicalized. Cuck porn is so intertwined with race that it's essentially impossible to analyze them separately. The narrative role of the bull is almost always played by a black man, stereotypically taller, stronger, manlier, and of course with the acronymous BBC. In fact, when you search for subreddits with the word cuck in the name, r/BBC cuckolding 500k members is likely to come up before r/cuckold 2.1 million members. In the Big Kink survey dataset, 20.5% of people who enjoyed cuckoldry reported that they specifically found black people erotic, compared to just 7.8% of those uninterested in cuckoldry. Conversely, 16.8% of people who responded that black people were the most attractive race reported interest in cuckoldry, following 18.8% of those who responded Scandinavian. More on that later. When questioned more specifically on race play, directly referencing race as part of a fetish dynamic, 16.4% of cuckoldry enjoyers reported it to be at least slightly arousing. Why someone would go alt-right over any of it? I mean, I think you have bigger things to try to like unravel and or like you would have to go significantly more insane to understand the right. Because I get what they're doing, but I definitely don't understand them. Casual observation of porn in its natural habitat, the internet, leads me to believe that these are underestimates. 1 in 6 people may respond to a survey that they find black people uniquely erotic or enjoy race play, but that leaves out people who are subconsciously aroused by racial dynamics without realizing, or are perhaps too shy to admit it. Way more than 20% of cuckold porn involves a black man. When it comes to what's popular in cuckold porn, involving race is clearly not a minority view, no pun intended. On the most popular cuckoldry subreddit, r/cuckold, out of the 50 most upvoted posts this month, 26 involved a black man as the bull, 27 if you count a threesome. All 26 of them were with white women. 2 of the posts have the phrase BBC in the title, and 3 more directly or implicitly compare the black bull and white cuck's dick size. The second most popular subreddit, r/cuckold captions, has dedicated tags for BBC and BNWO content. More on that second acronym in a bit. And so does the third, r/cuckold paradise. There are 2 separate subreddits dedicated to specifically BBC cuckold content with 500,000 and 200,000 members apiece. This overlap flows both ways, with BBC-focused pornography often having covert or overt cuckoldry themes. Interracial porn as a genre is nothing new, and you could teach a college course about the intersection between porn narratives and real-life racial dynamics, but for this analysis we're not going to be picking apart any stereotypes or cultural nuances. There is no need for subtlety when studying IRCP theory. The porn we're going to talk about is explicitly and purposefully radicalized. I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
Interracial porn on paper describes any number of possible ethnic combinations, but in practice, it generally refers to one dynamic, a black man having sex with a white woman. There exists a subgenre of interracial porn that takes this cultural dynamic and brings it to the forefront, BNWO porn. Standing for Black New World Order, BNWO porn is a collage of fetishes and narratives that revolve around a sexualized role reversal of white supremacy. Black men and women, but mostly men, are portrayed as superiors to their non-black counterparts, taking a dominant role in the fetish dynamic. White women, who play the submissive role, are referred to as a snow bunny or queen of spades, while white men are derogatorily referred to as white boys or any of the typical slurs for effeminate men, beta, sissy, the F slur, etc. While it might sound bizarre and niche to some of you, this genre is very popular online. There are dozens of subreddits dedicated to the content with hundreds of thousands of members. For comparison, r/bondage has 768,000 people. BNWO content comes with a full canon of narrative and stylistic tropes. There's a whole glossary of common terms and phrases, see Snow Bunny from before, an array of symbols and iconography, and established formats for media. Symbology especially plays a massive role. The spade, as in from a deck of cards, serves as a logo to be worn on clothing or, for more dedicated followers, tattooed onto the body. The most common format of this media is applying captions to pre-existing pornographic content to give it BNW a specific narrative context. A clip of a white woman hooking up with a black guy in a dorm room is captioned, "Every white girl's first day on campus." With the onset of AI, a new form of bespoke content has gained popularity in which users generate hentai-style images, often of anime or video game characters, in which women are dressed in spade-embroidered clothing or branded with tattoos reading "Black Owned" or "Black Cock Only." A significant amount of BNWO content is just a narrative overlaid onto a typical cuckold fetish, but it also has a large and equally important overlap with another kink ecosystem: sissy porn. Ah. And here's where we get into the gender of it all. AI again? Yeah, it always comes back. Chastity cages and sissies and bimbos, oh my. Chastity, sissy porn, and bimbofication are a variety of interconnected and overlapping fetishes that revolve around the emasculation or feminization of men. I think we just recently actually talked about this when we talked about Brian Gnome and his big titty bimbo fetish, or like his bimbofication fetish, from the interview with the cam girl who worked with him. Chastity in this essay's context refers to the act of a male partner being denied sexual gratification, either through intentional neglect by their partner or chastity cage devices designed to prevent physical arousal or stimulation. It may sound paradoxical for someone to derive sexual pleasure from the denial of sexual pleasure, but roughly 9.2% of cis men are into it. Sissy porn, or feminization porn, is often an extension of a chastity fetish, in which the male partner is not just denied sexual gratification, but is denied their masculinity. The kink revolves around a male partner being emasculated in a more holistic way, being made to wear feminine clothing, refer to themselves with feminine pronouns, or to serve a feminine role, e.g. maid or housewife. The kink's apotheosis is the male partner fully embracing their new feminine identity by way of servicing other men sexually or by engaging in full-fledged gender transition. I will address the obvious intersection with trans identity later, as it's complicated. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously another big reason. Like, these are so popular online as, like, porn categories for cis men to enjoy that obviously that is getting all caught up in all the bullshit with hatred against trans people because they think it's just a sex thing. They think it's just a fetish because to them it is. It's a thing. They see it as like being turned into a woman is a fetish for them, and so they project it onto you. As with many kinks and fetishes, sissy porn revels in amplifying existing social dynamics to their extremes. The kink's version of femininity is obviously rooted in society's existing misogyny. To be feminine is to be less intelligent, to be valued for visual appeal, to provide sexual value to men. Taking these things to their extreme is when sissy porn rubs up against a bimbo fetish. Bimbofication kinks amplify these stereotypes to the extreme: heavy makeup, performative stupidity, exaggerated breast size. This particular kink was in the news quite recently, with Kristi Noem's husband having private chat logs leaked by someone who is reportedly an immigrant sex worker seeking revenge for the former DHS secretary's actions. Chastity, sissy, and bimbo porn all fit neatly within the BNWO ecosystem. The overlap is so prominent that there are communities dedicated to specifically BNWO-themed sissy porn, for example, r/black-owned sissies with a 390k members. Even for content without racial dynamics, they follow many of the same tropes as BNWO content, such as the usage of captions to apply their new narrative context to pre-existing pornography. A short video clip of vanilla heterosexual porn is overlaid with captions framing the scene as the result of a lost bet between college roommates, where the loser is forced to dress like a girl for a week, and you can guess what happens next. Chastity serves as an extension of existing BNWO cuckold content. White men are not just emasculated by black men having sex with their partners, but outright denied the ability to have sex themselves. Images of muscular black men posing with white women are juxtaposed against images of white men wearing chastity cages with the caption "cause and effect" edited on top. Feminization porn serves to provide white men, or in the BNWO parlance, white boys, a role to sexually serve black men themselves. Captions instruct the viewer to become a snow bunny slut by having sex with black men. Bimbofication is an amplification and exaggeration of this feminization to maximize the white boy's emasculation. It is important to understand that all of these kinks, genres, and tropes all exist in a fuzzy Venn diagram with each other. Not all cuck porn is BNWO porn, and not all BNWO porn is sissy porn, but they all constantly overlap and influence each other. Users on r/Black World Order are 15 times more likely to post in r/sissies, and almost 100 times more likely to post in r/cuckold. Almost 20% of cis men into sissification find race play at least slightly arousing, 22% if you ask about black people more generally. It is also worth saying that these genres of porn are enjoyed by diverse groups of people for a wide variety of reasons. For example, chastity is most popular among trans women. For simplicity's sake, whenever I refer to porn or porn enjoyers, I'm referring to the specific interconnection of the web of kinks and their cis male audience, the interracial cuck porn cinematic universe, if you will. Hopefully you've got a good grasp on all of this, because it's about to get weird. It's already weird, oh god! The theory of everything. You could easily write papers on the political implication of these tropes, and indeed people have, but what I find more interesting is how often this porn leaves nothing to implication. Real-world politics makes a regular appearance in this content, sometimes taking center stage. Take, for instance, the anime-style content described with fictional characters dressed up in BNWO-themed outfits. These outfits most often display the spade iconography, but it's not uncommon for characters to be wearing skimpy outfits with the words Black Lives Matter, or the Black Lives Matter logo emblazoned across their breasts, or sporting a Black Power fist tattoo. Far-right iconography gets inverted, such as ironic twists on MAGA merch, a red hat reading Make America Black Again, or a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl being dominated while wearing a Confederate flag bikini. Even some real-world models hang Black Lives Matters flags in the background of lewd photo shoots. As described before, consumers of this porn often take existing content and apply their own captions to provide new narrative context. Through this, any interracial porn can become politicized. Almost all interracial porn is between a black man and a white woman, and occasionally a white man in the case of cuckold or sissy content. But captions can transform them into more specific characters. Instead of a generic white woman, a caption might portray her as a college student activist, or the daughter to a racist family. A hypothetical white boyfriend can be inserted into the narrative off-screen as an off-screen cuck. A generic black man can be rewritten as a violent criminal or foreign refugee. This practice of taking porn content and applying politics eventually goes so far as to wrap around, and non-pornographic political content starts becoming porn itself. Not to kink shame anyone, but newspaper headlines and population demographic statistics are not my typical idea of erotic. However, the subreddit r/blacked infographics is almost entirely dedicated to it. One of the top posts from this month features an anime cheerleader standing in front of population charts titled Declining White Population, and a newspaper headline reading America's white majority is aging out. Here is where the boundary between porn and politics goes from blurry to non-existent. No longer are people just applying a politicized narrative to their porn, the political narrative itself has become the porn. What becomes apparent is that essentially every foundational narrative for the modern right is part of this porn ecosystem. Immigration fears? HDMI cable, thank you so much for following. I think that actually hits...
where that went.
That's 700! Thank you so much for following. Thank you for being our 700th follower. Go and follow me on Blue Sky too. That's where I'm getting close to 1,000 followers on Blue Sky. If everyone on Blue Sky followed me here, you know. Immigration fears are the easiest and most obvious example. The refugee narrative context appears so often that it's essentially a trope of the genre, just like the Snow Bunny nickname or the Spade logo. In particular, there is a common style of edit in which white European nations are anthropomorphized by overlaying their flag onto a submissive white woman being implicitly or explicitly conquered by refugees. The most popular nations represented are Scandinavian countries like Sweden or Norway, with accompanying blonde-haired, blue-eyed women. This framing of immigration as an invasion or replacement of white Western nations is very familiar in our real-world politics. The Trump administration has used the language of invasion as a legal justification for their overreaching immigration enforcement by invoking the Alien Enemies Act. Administration officials have made it clear that they do not perceive this threat to be limited to criminals. Our culture is definitely in jeopardy by those hundreds of millions of foreigners that, as you say, don't care about your culture. That to me is a greater threat than a violent criminal or a terrorist, and that is a quote from Greg Bovino, former commander-at-large U.S. Border Patrol. This is, in essence, the Great Replacement theory, that immigration represents an existential threat to Western nations by way of replacing white populations with non-white populations. In the Trump 2.0 era, the Great Replacement has gone from obscure right-wing conspiracy theory to official government policy. Quote from J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States: Democrat politicians who have decided they can't win re-election in 2022 unless they bring in a large number of new voters to replace the voters that are already here. You're talking about a shift in the democratic makeup of this country that would mean we never win, meaning Republicans would never win a national election in this country ever again. And then the U.S. State Department: the United States objects to the Global Compact on Migration and UN efforts to facilitate replacement migration to the United States and our Western allies. The Great Replacement theory is broader than just immigration policy and also involves anxieties about falling birth rates, specifically white birth rates, accelerating said replacement. These anxieties also manifest in porn. Sometimes it takes the form of chastity porn, discouraging white men from procreating. One caption reads, "Your tiny white dick could never pass on anything worth keeping," and other times it encourages white women to procreate with non-white partners. Another title reads, "Be the last white girl in your family." Video game characters like Tracer or Diva from Overwatch tell the reader, "You're being replaced, white boy," with tattoos that read, "Breed Black" inscribed on their pelvis. Sometimes it drops all pretense and a post will simply be titled "The Great Replacement." Without any pictures of naked women attached, it's sometimes difficult to tell the difference between porn captions and tweets from a far-right influencer or a mass shooter. On May 14th, 2022, an 18-year-old white supremacist killed 10 people and wounded 3 others in a terrorist attack at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. The New York Attorney General's office published an investigative report into the shooter's racist motivations and how the shooter was radicalized by online content, in particular regarding the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. The shooter's manifesto was largely inspired by, and in significant part copied from, a manifesto written by the Christchurch, New Zealand shooter titled "The Great Replacement." Many have analyzed how much the shooter's manifesto pulls from online social media communities, but what's striking is how much similarity it also bears to rhetoric in online porn communities. I remember this fucking attack. This literally happened only a couple hours away from me. It was at a grocery store that I go to regularly, or did go to regularly at the time. Not the specific one, but I've been to that store. We got some comparisons here between the shooter's manifesto and the porn captions. "The high fertility replacers will destroy us. This is real gene replacement happening. Your weak white DNA ends with you forever. Every day, the white population becomes fewer in number. The US will become minority white in 2045. Number of white people in the US shrinks. Mix the colors together and you destroy them all. The evolution of white males. Post depicts a family tree becoming less white over generations. We are doomed by low birth rates and high rates of immigration. Whites already lost." When it comes to extreme BNWO content, the only thing differentiating it from a white supremacist screed is the moral valence. An AI-generated version of 2B from Nier Automata agrees that white genocide is happening. She just thinks it's hot. Racial demographics and immigration fears are not the only right-wing politics embedded in porn. It's an interracial cuck porn theory of everything, after all. The right's obsession with trans people, in particular their accusation that being trans is just a kink, their fears of social contagion, is just as intertwined with porn as race is. The standard right-wing playbook on trans people is that being trans is itself a mental illness better addressed with other methods, aka conversion therapy, or a sexual fetish also to be treated with conversion therapy. The fetish argument is largely based on the work of psychologist Ray Blanchard, who theorized that trans women fall into 2 categories: autogynephiles, who fetishize femininity, and homosexual transsexuals, who are essentially just gay men. This typology is pseudoscientific nonsense that I will not go into depth on here. See Julia Serrano's work for more. But it's important to know this AGP label has become right-wing canon. Autogynephilia is the ultimate in narcissism. I wish I was a woman so I could fuck myself, says Jordan Peterson, replying to a post quoting Blanchard. Another Jordan Peterson quote, of course, thank God for Jordan. I think shaming is perfectly appropriate once the kink is made public and its celebration made mandatory. Cool, thanks, Jordan. I hope you die of mold.
Right.
Oops. I heard somebody say that they think maybe he might not actually have gotten like mold poisoning, but just got COVID while he was touring, and he's just old and might just die of COVID. Isn't Jordan Peterson a talk show host? Not really. He's kind of like a pseudoscientist. He's a sham artist. He's a snake oil salesman, kind of, who...
He's a guy that speaks at college philosophy classes about pseudoscience.
Yeah, he, like, pretends to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist when he has no formal training on those things, and just speaks with great authority on subjects that he knows fuck all about. I know he...
He's a self-help book author.
Yeah, he's a self-help book author. He's a sham. If one believes that trans women are just sexual fetishists getting off on dressing up like women, then the existence of sissy porn is proof positive. It is quite literally autogynephilia. And indeed, sissy porn has been cited by very prominent right-wingers as evidence of the trans agenda sweeping across society. There is a particular trope in sissy porn of participants being hypnotized into femininity, referred to as sissy hypno, for short. According to the Big Kink Survey dataset, roughly 42% of cis men who are into sissification are also into hypnosis. Sissy hypno media often consists of rapid-fire clips of porn interspersed with spiraling patterns, rhythmic music, and subliminal messaging for the viewer, all the typical tropes associated with hypnosis and brainwashing. The main subreddit r/sissyhypno has 120k visitors. It's also popular enough to be repeatedly featured on the Daily Wire. On April 27, 2023, Michael Knowles published an episode of his show titled Hypnoporn, Dangerous New Trend Turns Men Trans, featuring Genevieve Cluck. 1 week later, he published another episode titled Trans Academic Claims Sissy Porn Made Him Do It. Like, I know that there are trans people who found being trans through that kind of thing, and sometimes it can be an outlet to allow yourself to explore your body in an interesting new way. And like it's a more safe and acceptable way to explore emasculation in a more fitting sense, and maybe you'll find that like your identity there. But a lot of trans people tend to stay away from like sissies, right? It's the same thing that like trans people and femboys aren't the same thing. We're not even really like in the same circle. Like they seem similar to somebody who's not initiated, but those two things are very different. The right's concerns with sissy porn hypnotizing people into being trans dates back to nearly a decade. In November 2018, Rod Dreher published a response in the American Conservative to Andrea Longshoe's New York Times essay, My New Vagina Won't Make Me Happy. At the end of the article are a series of updates where Rod continues to obsess over the author, stalking her social media and making fun of her medical fundraising efforts. The third update is Rod's summary of a paper discussing sissy porn, in which he describes it as the process of demonic possession. There are no images, but don't click through to it and start reading unless you are prepared to go to an extremely dark place. I almost didn't post this here, but after thinking about it, I concluded that it's actually vitally important to know. Now imagine a confused 12-year-old boy, perhaps one experiencing same-sex desires, finding sissy porn on his smartphone and giving himself over to it. It's only a few clicks away. What Chu describes here is the process of demonic possession. Thanks, Rod Dreher. Yeah, the demons. Yeah, demons make you gay and trans, obviously. Noel's guest on the show, Genevieve Gluck, was cited by the UK Women's Human Rights Campaign in a report to Parliament discussing their fears of a recently developed and rapidly proliferating category of pornography called sissy hypno, that coincidentally also cites Andrea Chu's book Females as an example of said hypnosis. Small world. Sissy hypno is the right's fear made manifest, otherwise unsuspecting young men being unwittingly manipulated into a life of transgender degeneracy. The failure to separate fiction from reality and correlation from causation is key to IRCP theory. It's true that there's tons of porn that purports to be hypnotizing men into becoming sissies and encourages them to transition. It's also true that tons of trans women enjoy this porn both before, during, and after their transition. But there are also tons of men who enjoy this porn and never transition. Transphobes start with the conclusion that being trans is a fetish and see sissy porn as a trans people factory, instead of the more likely answer that people who are already doubtful of their gender identity are going to resonate more with media about changing genders. The failure of the right wing's imagination here is starkest when you realize a key absence: trans men. When it comes to fetishization of trans men, all signs point in the other direction, or the same direction depending on how you look at it. For trans men, feminization porn is far more popular than masculinization porn. I don't even know if masculinization porn exists to any meaningful degree. I am unaware of any such communities. I am very aware. How can both trans women and trans men be AGP? Are trans women fake male fetishists while trans men are real women expressing their genuine femininity? It's all post hoc. I remember, and this is like a weird thing, maybe like a weird line, but I remember when I was a teenager, my dad saw me playing a ton of Minecraft or something. I think it was just a bunch of video games either way. But he told me he saw and he read an article or something where some guy somewhere got like couldn't separate reality from fiction and got sucked into the Minecraft universe and like attacked people. And I genuinely there she is. You see her poking her head in. I genuinely don't know if that was real. He never showed me anything about it, but he was like scared that I was gonna like play too much Minecraft and just start killing people or something. Like he genuinely thought that I was like gonna become evil because I played too much video games or something. He was like, he saw me playing Assassin's Creed one time. It's like, I better never have to bail you out of jail for killing someone. Like, what starts to make IRCP theory click is realizing how many seemingly disconnected parts of right-wing ideology have obvious connections in the porn world. On the surface, great replacement theories and trans panic might seem like two distinct bullet points in an ideology, but in the porn world, they are one and the same. As briefly discussed before, white men's emasculation in the BNWO narrative is often quite literal. It's a common trope for white boys to be feminized, voluntarily or otherwise, as a display of their inferiority and subservience to their black masters. Alongside those AI-generated anime girls are plenty of effeminate white boys with the same spade tattoos. References to real-world transgenderism are often explicit, such as swapping the black spade out for one with the trans pride flag colors, or directly instructing the reader to take estrogen. Transitioning is sometimes portrayed as removing oneself from the gene pool, again tying back to great replacement birth rate anxieties. The Black Lives Matter slogan is often modified to only Black Lives Matter, or inverted to say white lives don't. I feel like, obviously, like, these people see this shit in the porn that they consume, and they're so porn-brained and internet-brained that they truly cannot separate that. And they think that that's like a real opinion people have in the real world, and a real thing that's happening. It's all reactionary shit, too, because it's the reactionary ideology of, like, I don't actually believe in anything, I only have what I'm mad about right now. And that's the only thing that matters to me. Yeah, I've seen tons of Bridget being used in this sort of shit because, whose canon identity as a trans woman has been hotly debated. Yeah, I know so many weirdos were like, you're killing the twinks, you're taking twinks away from us.
No, they were like, oh, it's a mislocalization. You don't understand.
You don't understand. She
And
just
then
doesn't know it.
The author like came out, turns to the camera directly on Twitter, and was like, no, I meant trans woman, and they're like,
She is trans,
oh,
and
well,
they're
you
like,
don't understand the cultural context of the word. You didn't really need it when you said that.
yeah, you didn't know. Stupid. The conspiratorial nature of great replacement theories is embedded into the very vocabulary of BNWO porn. Posts are often referred to as propaganda and stylistically resemble real-world news reports or infographics. Sometimes the viewer is portrayed as a hapless victim of a malicious psyop. An interracial porn clip has the words BNWO propaganda edited onto a black man's shaft as he penetrates a white woman who has the words relapsing white boy labeled over her breasts. Many use the government or law as a narrative framing device. For example, a reparations act that requires white women to offer up sex to black men as a repayment for chattel slavery. Even the name itself, Black New World Order, is a reference to the classic conspiracy. Porn as the connective tissue between right-wing immigration and transgender politics is clear, but that's far from a theory of everything. What about stuff like education policy or economics? Cartoons Hate Her's Doge is About Sex explores how right-wing economic policy is motivated by misogynistic resentment. Specifically, the online right harbors intense resentment for professionally successful women, i.e., girl bosses, and this explains at least part of the enthusiasm for programs like Doge or Trump's tariffs. More on that here. The story of gender economics for the past several decades has been the erosion of gender gaps, and in recent times, the gap has essentially disappeared. Among workers aged 25 to 34, women earned 74% of male median earnings in 1982, compared to 95 in 2024. In several US cities, the gap is actually reversed, with women under 30 earning more than their male counterparts. This is mostly explained by trends in higher education. Women have been outperforming men in college graduation since the 2010s. This resentment is the key to unlocking advanced IRCP theory. To borrow again from CHH, they believe women are part of an oppressor class who has, for some reason, been granted unfair degrees of privilege in the form of being hired for fun pretend jobs. In their mind, almost every working woman has an email job, specifically one that wasn't available to men and provides no value. They believe if AI replaced these unnecessary jobs, women would be rightfully forced to settle for schlubs. Just take it from the king of schlubs himself, from Asmongold. Oh my goodness! Polymarket says new analysis reveals female-dominated corporate roles are more vulnerable to AI automation than male roles. And Zach Asmongold says too many fake jobs were invented to create artificial parity between men and women in the workforce. AI fixes this problem. Hopefully after this is over, women can go back to doing what they do best, being a mother or being a prostitute. Very nice, Zach. Bro needs to go back to doing transmog competitions. Yeah, right? No, he needs to go back to jail. He needs to be put away and his computer needs to be taken away from. I think
he needs to go back to the other side of his house that he never cleans in the apology and finish fucking cleaning his house.
He needs to be forced to reckon with the fact that he let his mother die in his rotten house by enabling her. And then he needs to take his infinite money and be kicked off of the internet forever so that he's forced to go the fuck outside. The champion of Nurgle. He needs to confront the rat colony that's taken over the half of his house before they eat him alive. I know he's been like fighting VTubers or whatever, like, yo, Asmongold, you want to hit on somebody? Look at me. You could make fun of so many things about my body and my face and my opinions. Come after me. Don't come after some fucking random VTuber. Fight me. Send your fucking cronies after me.
What is it with... Actually, no. I think this is explained by the theory of everything in the article. I was about to say, like, what is it with fucking right-wing figureheads and, like, getting in fights with VTubers? Because I just watched... I got one the other morning that was... some VTuber I've never heard of before. Had the, like...
The Faithful Sheriff, right?
The Faithful Sheriff, formerly Dr. Witnesser, the weird peanut guy that like goes on Fortnite and tries to like tell kids to find God.
I like Nyara a lot,
so, like,
actually, yeah.
This random VTuber had him come in her chat, admit to saying the hard R,
right,
when she was looking up who the fuck this like moron was, He was like, yeah, you got me, I said it. And then got mad and started subtweeting her on Twitter when she blocked him because she didn't want somebody to say the hard R in her Twitch chat.
It's because they know that they're like popular, and it's also, again,
well, I think
it's the idea of that women have bullshit jobs and that VTubers are like a bullshit job or something.
That, and I think it's also part of this whole like right-wing porn theory of everything complex of like, I think they're just so like so mired in this that it's moths to a flame.
And I know a lot of VTubers tend to like encourage a little bit of lewdness, which definitely brings the perverts.
Yeah.
And the perverts have all seen this weird porn and thus have their opinions shaped by it. When I say weird porn, I mean porn with like racist overtones. I don't know, I can't think of a not weird way to enjoy explicit race play stuff, especially as a white person. I think I have had people that I have done hookups with try to push race play shit onto me, and has always made me feel really fucking weird and like made me stop the thing that was happening because it is gross and I don't like it. And it feels like you're trying to get me to be racist to fuel that. You're weird fucking, like, I don't know, it's just like it feels like a weird gotcha. Like they're trying to, it's like sexualizing racism, and I just don't get it. I don't like it. It's gross. Yeah, I mean, it's power dynamic stuff, and that stuff can be hot too. Like, I guess, again, like as a white person, it's always like a really weird line that we walk because we have to contend with all of the history behind that sort of stuff. At the same time that like we need to like reckon with the fact that sometimes that power dynamic and that role reversal, because of the way that society is sexy. And I think both of those things can be true, and usually what it requires is a lot of like self-reflection and looking into these things and like understanding the context that they come from, which is not something the average porn viewer is doing.
There's no such thing as porn addiction, but I think it's very telling that all of the arguments in favor of how porn addiction corrupts your worldview seems to come from the same people that already have a really backwards stuff.
Rain keeps saying every accusation is a confession with these fucking people, and it's because they are projecting so hard because they cannot face it internally. Reverse racism in a sexual context? Yeah, I mean, again, they're talking kind of BNWO stuff, right? Like the reparations porn kind of thing. And again, nothing wrong with enjoying it. There are so many like problematic kinks, right, that are fine as long as they are engaged in safely, with consent, with conversations, things like that. You know, the issue is when that shit is fed over and feeds into real life and real politics, which is again what this is saying, is that these people are not doing that kind of separation. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of like, there's probably some emasculation also in like the fuda category, right?
Yeah.
You know, the whole like that is all emasculate. Don't call them fudas, bro. Though if you are a trans person who is chill with calling themselves a fuda, you know, that is a powerful move. It could never be me though.
Yeah.
All right. Everything from tariffs to defunding the Department of Education is in part motivated by this underlying misogyny. To the online right, tariffs are good because they will make the economy manly again. Fossil fuels are good because they require manly men to do hard work. Just like that Twitter post that's always going around about the dude in the pipe, and he's got all the muck on him, and he's like turning the big thing on the pipe, and it's like, manly men don't exist anymore. They could never do this. I think it's so weird too that like trans people and intersex people get so like get confused together, and like intersex people are just literally catching strays all the fucking time. and like lumped in with, because like some intersex people are trans, some intersex people wouldn't consider themselves trans and stuff like that. It's just, it's so weird. It's all stuff because again, people want shit to be so easy. People want shit to be so black and white and easy to understand, but shit just isn't like that in the real world. Stuff is complicated. People are complicated, and we need to understand each other. We need to work really hard to try to understand each other. The little boxes, yeah, I reject little boxes. High school teachers submitting to BBC is the most popular post of all time in r/Black World Order. On any given cuck or interracial porn subreddit, it won't take more than a few scrolls to find a post titled "Your Girl's First Day in College" or some slight variation. Elaborate fantasies involve white people attending mandatory university classes to learn their place in the forthcoming Black World Order. One hilariously niche plotline involved a man discovering that his girlfriend, a graduate student, was having sex with the student athletes she was tasked with tutoring, all black, of course. If we broaden our horizons a bit to include liberal women rather than just college women, then the picture becomes even clearer. Popular posts have captions such as "the best welcome for a black refugee to Europe." Black Lives Matter takes on a narrative role both in iconography, as mentioned before, and also as a setting for cuckoldry. A post titled "Your GF at the BLM After Party. It's not cheating, honey. I'm just supporting the cause" has over 4,000 upvotes on r/Black World Order. There's a consistent narrative through line that modern women go off to college, become liberal, and have sex with tons of black men, not necessarily in that order. The worst is when people do that weird biological argument, and if you bring up intersex people, they'll say, "Oh, that's an outlier. If a human is born with one arm, we don't say humans have one arm." Like, hello, I exist. Exactly. By that logic, what color eyes would you say humans are born with? Absolutely. It's like mutations and stuff are part of the human experience. It's what I follow Jovan Bradley, and he talks a lot in his debates about the idea of exclusionary categories and how if you want something to be exclusionary, it needs to have a necessary condition that includes all things that are in that category and rejects all things that are not. And so, like, intersex people obviously throw a wrench in their traditional understanding of what sex and gender being the same thing is, because, like, intersex people exist, which are people like all of these intersex conditions where people don't have a specific set of chromosomes or pieces of their body or developmental thing. Like, so much of the human experience is such a spectrum, and nothing is just a black and white the way you want it to be, because the world does not, like nature does not nicely fit into categories that are decided by people. And we get so caught up in these fascist little boxes that we try to force everyone else to also be in those categories, even when they don't really explain the situation in reality. They just make it easier for you personally to understand, and that is fine for these people because they are deeply uncurious. This anxiety or resentment around the modern woman is so central to the psychology at play that it supplants the typical object of cuckoldry. Normally, cuckoldry is about a man's girlfriend or wife having an affair, but IRCP theory reveals something more. In most BNWO cuck porn, the focus is a romantic partner or a prospective retrospective one, e.g. your crush, your ex, but on occasion, it will be different women in the reader's life. Their mothers, their sisters, or perhaps, most unsettlingly, their daughters. These women slot right into the same narrative place as a wife or girlfriend without missing a beat. Posts titled "My sister is black only" or "Your daughter sucks big black cock" aren't hard to find. Collages of multiple porn clips, each labeled "your girlfriend," "your sister," "your mother," depict entire families as serving the BNWO together. Some men offer up photographs of their real-life family members for others to masturbate to in the same way a cuckold would his partner. This eroticization of one's own family might seem extreme, but it's really just an extension of very mainstream patriarchal thinking. The stereotypical trope of an angry father threatening his daughter's new boyfriend is based on this implied control that men expect to have over the sexuality of the women in their family. In the patriarchal worldview, the differences between a wife, a sister, and a daughter are just minutiae between different types of property. In the interracial cuckold cinematic universe, modern women are enraptured by black men and disgusted by white men. The modern white man, or white boy, is portrayed as useless, effeminate, if not outright transgender. Pictures of femboy or trans women models are often captioned, "the modern white boy." Those family collages from before sometimes include a square for the reader, most often portrayed by a femboy or trans woman wearing a chastity cage. All of these things are things that I have seen too. So like, this is a thing. This is really well thought out. I was really impressed by this writing. I gotta pull some of the articles that it's referenced because I've opened a couple more, and if we're willing, I'll dig into those too. It's again, it's the projection of these people that are saying we need to live a certain way, we need to have a certain kind of sexuality, that people are, like, trans people and queer people in general are just pushing their sexuality out into the world on people, when this kind of thing exists where, like, porn is being pushed into our fucking politics. Like, fear that people get from looking at porn. I mean, we've even seen, like, I think wasn't it Jordan Peterson that reposted a, like, Chinese AI milking video and like posted it as if it was real proof that, like, they're just doing this to guys in wherever they're, like, kidnapping people and torturing them for their nut or something. Like, Jordan Peterson is a crazy person, but, like, it's that thing, they see this porn and they think it's real. It's that thing, like, my parents told me, it was a weird conversation, but my parents made sure to tell me that porn was not what sex was like, and not what real life was like. And I feel like these people could probably use that conversation. A daily reminder to send this stream to one of your friends. Also, like and subscribe. This idea that modern men have lost their masculinity, and women are but simple sex-minded creatures, instinctually obedient to said masculinity, is basically the right's entire thesis on gender dynamics, or the red pill. The masculinity that the right aspires to is a caricature of itself, exaggerating men's crudest impulses despite feminist criticism of toxic masculinity. Its brawn over brains, as can be seen in the Department of War, and its obsession with the operator. Its perverse stoicism in the form of rejecting the concept of mental health or emotional regulation. It's justifying and facilitating sexual and domestic violence. And of course, it's obsessed with the size of its own dick. Size matters to the modern right, whether it's the size of their ballrooms or the size of their balls. Tucker Carlson, quote, "The total collapse of testosterone levels in American men, one of the biggest stories of our lifetimes." From Raw Egg Nationalist, Charles Cornish Dale, leftists have now openly embraced emasculation and having low testosterone as part of their identity. And then Nick Fuentes, big guy Nick Fuentes, your average woman, controlled by her loins, controlled by her primal impulses, she would crawl on hands and knees, bloodied and bashed, on fire for miles, to have a chance with a 6'5" genetically superior male. Thank you, Nick Fuentes. Very normal thing to say. The interracial cuck porn theory of everything is realizing that the above doesn't just sound like a caption on some cuck porn, it is cuck porn. The modern right feels cucked, but not by other men. They feel cucked by women. The 1915 film Birth of a Nation revolves around black men as rapacious threats to the innocence of white women that must be fended off by the brave Ku Klux Klan. By contrast, modern interracial cuck anxieties have women take on the role of the antagonist. White women are no longer hapless victims, they are the enablers and beneficiaries of white male emasculation. Today's right-wing men can't help but give female characters more agency, even in their porn fantasies. Score 1 for feminism. Women in the modern world have more agency than ever before, and many men on the right don't know how to cope. Out of spite, they cling to an exaggerated vision of masculinity, a big, strong man who does whatever he wants to whoever he wants. The red pill sells young men on the idea that performing toxic masculinity hard enough will put women back in their place. With big enough muscles and enough commas in your bank account, you can get a girlfriend who does nothing but cook, clean, and have sex on command. The psychology underlying interracial cuck porn theory is what happens if the red pill doesn't pan out. The black pill, yes, pun intended. This ties back into the Republicans pissed off that trans women won't have sex with them thing. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Yeah, I don't want to have sex with a Republican. I don't want to have sex with a conservative. I think they're gross and weird. I think that, like, and you can tell. When you're talking to someone, you can tell about, like, what they think about you. Like, I'm not stupid, right? I'm autistic, and sometimes I have trouble reading people, but you can tell by the way somebody talks about you and talks to you and talks to people about you what they actually think about you. And if you're paying attention, a lot of these people do not treat us like people. What if you can't perform masculinity hard enough? What if you're genetically destined to be a beta male? What if your beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed trad wife falls for a taller, stronger, and bigger man than you? Interracial cuck porn packages all these anxieties up into a self-fulfilling erotic prophecy, and it interweaves it with the rest of the viewer's political anxieties. Porn and politics become one and the same, yin and yang, black and white. I've laid out the theory. Interracial cuck porn serves as the connective tissue and narrative framework for online far-right politics. But what's the evidence? I don't have access to the search histories of every far-right influencer on the internet, thank God, but there's more to this than just speculative psychoanalysis. The association between right-wing political beliefs and consumption of pornography is not a novel observation. A 2009 study published by Benjamin Edelman analyzed a dataset of online porn subscriptions. When controlling for broadband internet access, 8 of the 10 states with the highest subscription rates voted for John McCain in the previous election. He also observed a slight correlation between states passing a Defense of Marriage amendments and subscription rates. For some more recent data, every year Pornhub publishes a review of their traffic statistics. In 2024, Ohio's most popular search relative to other states was cuckold, and in 2023, it was small dick. In 2022, West Virginia was trans, and Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi, and North Dakota all had black. Florida too, if you count BBC. These all loosely point in the direction of IRCP theory, but are fuzzy proxies. If only there was a survey that directly asked people about both their political beliefs and porn preferences. The Big Kink survey dataset is massive, and contains tons of interesting data, but it doesn't capture literally everything. Believe it or not, there wasn't a question on the survey for are you a right-winger who has anxieties regarding the racial demographics of your country, and also do you enjoy cuck porn. We do have something pretty close though. With the results from 2 different survey questions and some simple math, I can calculate how many respondents of different political beliefs are into a combination of different kinks. Unsurprisingly, cuckoldry and race play are correlated kinks. People who find race play more arousing are more likely to enjoy cuckoldry. At first glance, the data appears to show that interracial cuckoldry is a left-wing phenomenon, but this is a case of Simpson's paradox. More liberals are into cuckoldry at any given level of race play enjoyment, but race play enjoyment is not consistent between ideologies. Race play is one of the few kinks that is significantly right-leaning, along with students and cheerleaders. Interesting. This is another article link. We need to talk about pedocon theory. Ooh, I do want to talk about pedocon theory, actually. According to these results, just over 1% of self-reported conservatives are into cuckoldry and find race play at least slightly arousing, or around 22% more often than liberals. For those of you who remember your stats classes, the p-value here is 0.00055, quite significant. At the extreme end of arousal, this gap rises to 43%. The key is that while liberals enjoy cuckoldry more than conservatives due to being kinkier overall, conservatives are much more into race play than liberals, even more so at the extremes. One caveat is that I can't read the minds of the survey respondents. It is plausible that a significant number of conservatives are into a different type of race play than liberals, like, say, white supremacy rather than black supremacy. However, other forms of race play, like white supremacy or fetishizing Asian women, do not have nearly as strong of an association with cuckoldry as BNWO content does. Additionally, any overestimation due to the ambiguity of race play is going to be more than washed out by the underestimation inherent to survey results. I am confident that the number of people who consciously enjoy race play is much smaller than the true number of people who enjoy racialized porn. The overflow of BNWO-themed porn into other kink communities is well known and easy to observe. Many who indulge in chastity or feminization porn know firsthand how popular racialized content is. It's impossible to scroll for long in any chastity, sissy, or cuckold community without seeing crossover from BNWO communities. Furthermore, it is the only type of racialized content that overflows. White supremacist or Asian fetishization content do not appear outside of their communities to nearly the same extent. Just over 1% may seem insignificant, but I disagree. Not just because it is a significant underestimate, but also because narrative tropes can propagate far and wide beyond their original audience. This 1% who are willing to give these answers on a survey are the ones who are really into it. The people editing white birth rate graphs into the background of AI-generated Legend of Zelda hentai are coming from this 1%. Extremes are correlated, and it's likely that people producing and consuming highly politicized pornographic content are also highly politically engaged. Their far-right peers then pick up on the same tropes because it aligns with their politics and amplify them, unaware of their genesis. The often cited 99-1 rule itself states that just 1% of any online community is responsible for essentially all of its content creation. The porn and politics exist in mimetic symbiosis, recursively shaping each other far beyond the point where it's worthwhile to ask which came first. Then, occasionally, these porn tropes bubble up to the surface like a Freudian slip. Take, for instance, this rabidly Zionist individual whose tweet randomly scrolled past my feed. I did a real-life double-take upon seeing the Queen of Spades symbol included amongst the Pride and Palestinian flags as example of woke ideology. This isn't the first time I've seen the Queen of Spades symbol show up on far-right Twitter posts, this is just the recent one. Many prominent right-wing commentators' thoughts on pornography map pretty well onto the narratives of sissy hypno-porn, namely that pornography can involuntarily make people gay or trans. I think that you can be moved in that direction through propaganda and pornography, Tucker Carlson referring to the rise in people identifying as gay. Here's the fact about all these trans and non-binary killers and assassins. They all developed their gender identity from consuming hundreds of hours of porn. The gender stuff is the product of extreme nihilism and extreme perversion. A steady long-term diet of pornography turns anyone into a nihilist pervert. It's not a far leap to get from that to murderer, Matt Walsh. Again, every accusation and confession. I talked about this before, but there are almost no, if any at all, trans or even trans-affiliated shooters. There is so much misinformation because the right wants you to believe that they are trans really fucking bad, but the truth is, trans people just don't do violence like that in general. In fact, liberal-leaning people are a lot less likely to do any kind of violence. Ads. No. Imagine seeing ads and not being subscribed to twitch.tv/AprilTheDoe. Like and subscribe. How's everybody doing today so far? I hope this isn't too heavy of a topic. I just thought this was a super interesting read. I think that, like, human sexuality is way more important than people want it to be. Even asexuality, right? Like is a form of like contention with that, understanding that sex isn't necessarily something that you're interested, but ace people tend to be really kinky too. So like there is a lot of the time like physical overlap even with that kind of stuff, right? I feel like sexuality in general, people's like sexual interests are like so tied to our development. They're tied to the kinds of trauma that we've experienced because sex and kink can be really healing. You know, in order to re-experience a traumatic event in a healthy way is a really good way of healing from that kind of thing and not being so scared of it. Being able to sometimes even like you end up sexualizing and pathologizing like traumatic things that happened to you in the past in order to like help yourself rationalize it. There's a lot of like there's tons of evidence of this, and we love our asexuals. Asexuals rise up. Listen, somebody has to be here to hold up the fucking world when we're all hit by the horrible sex virus that forces us to have sex all the time. When the aliens come to destroy us and they infect us with the sex virus, the asexuals will be there to save us. Page 5 of Project 2025 reading Pornography Manifested Today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology, their product is as addictive as any illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime. Just wrong. Just wrong. Just kind of all over the place in so many ways that it's not even worth addressing. Of course, we cannot ignore the bombastic story that broke earlier this year regarding Kirsty Noem's husband, Brian Noem, who was revealed to have a very dedicated bimbo kink. Brian was apparently in a dom-sub relationship with an online dominatrix in which he expressed his desires to be feminized, specifically being made trans. "I need to be your trans bimbo slut," he said during one conversation. "Hair removal, big fake tits, ass implants, hormones," during another. Once you know what you're looking for, the prevalence of IRCP theory becomes hard to ignore. You start to notice specific words and phrases in viral right-wing slop tweets that are repurposed in porn, or perhaps the slop tweets are repurposing them from porn. It's not a coincidence that AI-generated short films about interracial cuckoldry via soda flavors are a common form of engagement bait on Twitter. Young, attractive blondes are like lightning rods for right-wing social media engagement, both positive and negative. These posts go viral for the same reason the porn is so popular and the politics so engaging. They all hijack the same anxieties about masculinity that the right is coalesced around. It's even an international phenomenon. Take, for instance, this UK-based parody account at Eurofounder on Twitter, 88.2k followers. It posts political satire from the POV of a European entrepreneur. Most of the content revolves around making fun of the European regulatory state and wokeness more broadly, but there's a subtle recurring theme you might notice if you look carefully. AI draws from lowest common denominator and there's theoretically more porn than anything else. Yeah. I mean, it's all being fed in, right? The internet is being devoured by AI as content, and there's just so much porn. And again, like this is saying, the porn that we make, the porn that we consume, that's all like closest to lizard brain. That's all down there in the... Don't say lizard brain, right?
Lizard brain is Rothschildian.
It is Rothschildian, sorry. That is down at our like animal instincts, right at our id.
Primate brain. Primate brain.
Obviously, the account is intended to be comedic, but ask yourself why this one particular punchline keeps appearing over and over. The brainworms persist outside the Anglosphere, with Spanish-speaking libertarian Twitter accounts named after Milton Friedman daydreaming about the Artemis II astronauts and infidelity, or a South African account rage-baiting Germans and Swedes with historical Bojack cuckoldry. Interesting. Fucking insane. The fact that dead internet theory came true is a bit of a mindfuck. I think it was like, the idea of dead internet theory was that it was already happening, right? It was things like Quora and stuff like that, where it was profitable to write and profitable to respond to Quora asks and stuff like that. So it would just constantly just be bots asking bot questions and then being replied to by bots, and all of them just kind of milking money out of this stupid website. And because it was so popular with the bots, it kept getting pushed up in search results, and thus making the website more profitable based on, because people would click on it and see the ads. There were less than 1% of actual people online, like less than 1% of things that are being posted by actual people. That's interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's probably true at this point, especially with AI. Did you see that automated channel reading the WWE and just going fucking crazy because it couldn't pronounce it?
The show will happen. The stadium will likely fill up one way or another. What like
Had a fucking baby vine sauce duck out.
And yeah, it couldn't get it. Translation with your own from Google Translate. This chick will be 400,000 kilometers away from her husband, enclosed with 3 dudes for 10 days, and she's not going to do anything. while your girlfriend goes to eat at her friend's house 5 blocks away and pays for ice cream delivery with a blowjob. Uh-huh. Bringing it back to my very first example, Donald Trump Jr. posted the following in reaction to a fake news article regarding the highly publicized murder of Ryan Carson. In 2023, the stabbing attack that killed Carson was captured on camera and subsequently went viral. Ryan Carson spent his life as a left-wing political activist, and this prompted many on the right to victim blame both him and his girlfriend for his murder. Matt Walsh wrote, "The Ryan Carson story shows how leftism short-circuits your brain and interferes with your ability to make common sense, instinctive judgment calls." Republican NYC councilwoman Vicky Palladino accused Carson's girlfriend Claudia Morales of hindering the investigation for the sake of her politics. Many on the right implied or outright accused Morales of sympathizing more with the killer than her deceased boyfriend, which runs in parallel to interracial cuck porn narratives. Carson was white, his killer black. Here is what Donald Trump Jr. had to say about the killing. "The most predictable leftist cuck move ever. How long till she has his kids?" Beyond the depravity of such a statement, I want to point out how strange it is for this to be the reaction. Victim blaming Carson and Morales for their left-wing politics is one thing, but the train of thought leading to a conjugal visit only makes sense in the context of IRCP theory. Interracial cuck porn is the social dark matter pervasive throughout online right-wing politics. Only once this dark matter is included in your model of the world can these phenomena be properly explained. There's one last trope in BNWO porn that I think encapsulates everything very nicely. There is somewhat of a slogan that reappears across interracial cuck porn: "Say no to white boys." Women indulging in the kink for a male audience will write this hashtag on a piece of paper and hold it up to the camera. AI-generated anime waifus have the words tattooed across their body. It has a dedicated subreddit with 178,000 members. Almost universally, the words are accompanied by a woman raising her middle finger to the viewer. As much of modern right-wing politics can be boiled down to resentment of the fact that modernity has granted many women the ability to say no to men. That resentment doesn't go away when these men get horny, it just turns into a sexy woman with a Black Lives Matter flag saying no. Yeah, and that's the whole article. This makes a ton of sense to me. It's the ultimate emasculation, and it's the thing that they're all scared of, and it's the reason that they think of transness as a fetish only because to them it is, and it's all fucking projection. They're all projecting these feelings that they have, these anxieties that they have, that are then being, like, they see this shit in porn that they're consuming. Like, the people that consume that highly politicized porn and are creating that highly politicized porn tend to be very politically active, and then their opinions, they then make content about the stuff, and that gets spread out, and they're influenced. They're like, these people are... It's all connected. It's all connected. That's what I'm saying. Like, again, I feel crazy sometimes when I talk about this shit, but this is what I've been trying to say. Definitely, please, take a look at this. This is on Liberal Currents. I can share this in the Discord server, and I will do that right now.